Good evening, everybody. It's Lorraine with Alternative Homesteading. It is just a little bit past 8:30 p.m. It was extremely hot today. It was too hot really to do anything outside. It was 95 degrees, but it claims that it felt like 103, and it did. And it's extremely humid. The humidity is around 73 degrees. So I'm walking around now, the sun's down, and it's extremely damp and wet. And probably within the next couple of hours, there'll be moisture dripping off the side of the house. But I wanted to document vandalism that's taken place here. And none of this is naturally occurring. These people, these criminals, they intentionally sabotage anything that a target does. Their goal is to deteriorate, depreciate, decompose, denigrate, destroy. All the D words, like death. It's death of 1,000 cuts. It's called zerzetzung. This is a psychological Stasi technique used back in Germany. And those Nazis came to the United States and shared all of those wonderful tools that they utilized there with our government. Period. All of these techniques are being rolled out to all targeted individuals in different phases, of course. I have been targeted a minimum of 10 years. I can remember back to January of 2012. Although I do believe that there were some events that were just bizarre and unexplainable before that time. But the way this targeted program works and the way the watch list works is it goes in phases. From what I've heard, there are 5 phases. But they go in phases, and the first phase is, of course, selecting you and surveilling you. Surveilling is basically initially just watching everything that you do. Having people close to you watching you. Let's say you go to the gym. They'll set up people to be friends with you and watch you. They'll watch you from the parking lot and the supermarket and all the things that you do. Then that surveillance goes a little bit further, where they will break into your house and your computer and start searching your emails for email addresses and make copies of things. I know this to be true because I'm very fastidious about making folders on my laptop, on my computer. I have so many folders, it's absolutely ridiculous. And in those folders, I have documents. I was a student. I was a graduate student later in life, an adult learner. So I had to become very organized, in raising a daughter, working, going to school, undergraduate and graduate school, and cleaning a house and gardening and all that stuff. So I have lots of folders, and those folders have documents and photos, and everything's labeled. And sometimes some of those documents and photos that are labeled are in more than one folder. So I started to notice that things that I labeled that were in one folder would suddenly be missing and would turn up in a folder that I would never add it to. Now, every once in a while, you make an error. Let's say you're renaming a document and it ends up somewhere else, but this was happening on a more than occasional basis. And by the way, it's still happening. It happens a lot. So what they do is they get into your documents. They want to read everything. They'll make copies of it. And obviously they can't do this in one fall swoop. So they'll be entering your house multiple occasions, pretty much every day. But you don't realize it. You won't realize it for a long time. It could be years. And with our busy lives, you just don't know. So when you're under surveillance, it gets to be very extreme in different phases. And the extremity is that they're not just watching what you do and what you eat. They will be watching who you interact with, what you are saying, who you are having sex with, your sexual positions, every phone conversation, every dialogue, every person you have ever come in contact with. It is so narcissistic and psychopathic that anyone would want to know this kind of information about anyone is insane. And I will continue to use the words insane because it is insanity. But that's exactly what's happening now. And a whistleblower that just came forward, she's a biochemist, I believe that's what she was. She just came forward with a document, and anybody that wants it, I downloaded it. It's a software that was being used to track not only everybody in what you do and what you say, but what you think. They want to know how you think, what you think, why you think it. It is such an invasion of privacy. Your intellectual property is violated. Many people will concoct plans, be creative, physically, intellectually, think of ideas, even psychic ability, intuitiveness. They are insidious about wanting to understand and know this about everybody. And they hack it. They will hack it with radio frequencies, entering your home. Sometimes they will actually spray nanotechnology in your home so that you're inhaling it, you're ingesting it. They need for you to incorporate this technology within your physical body. And the people that won't do it willingly, they'll do it surreptitiously some other way, like breaking into your home and pouring something in your sugar bowl. So if your sugar is usually nice and smooth, and suddenly you start to see clumps in your sugar, it's been tampered with. You don't have to throw away all the sugar, just throw away the clumps. And that goes for anything that is normally smooth that you eat, salt, etc. I mean, of course, sometimes moisture can get into salt or sugar and cause that, but not usually on a regular basis, and this is what happens. But I wanted to also document the vandalism, and then we'll get back to the surveillance. So this is not naturally occurring. This is a sunflower, by the way. This was intentionally burned by the criminals. This spot here does get sun, but it doesn't get the full sun that the rest of the property gets. I have never seen a sunflower get scorched like this here, and it's because of the criminals. The criminals are intentionally scorching it, just the way they did this tree branch right here. You see that tree branch? I don't know if you can see this here. The rest of the tree is fine, except that tree branch has no leaves on it because it's been scorched. Oh, goodness gracious, we've got a sky show going on too. Oh my. We've got so much going on, and there goes a stalker. But I wanted to document that over the weekend, the criminals were on the property, and they really go full force on weekends. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I find the most thefts and vandalism. Now, these were placed here last year in excellent condition, and they were in excellent condition a day ago. But this morning, this is what they look like. They have been sliced. And no, this is not naturally occurring. This is not naturally occurring. This was done to the tree stumps to make it deteriorate quickly, and I documented this with some other tree stumps. Now, most people are going to say, oh, but it's only a tree stump. Well, you know what? I spend a lot of time and money and effort on my property. These people come in and their goal is to deteriorate, degrade, denigrate, decompose your body, your mind, your possessions, your property. And you can see here, this is a clearer picture of how they intentionally slice this. And they scratch this. You know, of course, while they were here, they had to scratch the paint off of this. But they scratched here, they cut this away. And then here. It wasn't like this just a day ago. And this sunflower was intentionally scorched. They actually use lasers, tasers, and handheld directed energy weapons. And directed energy weapons is DEW, directed energy weapons. They call them non-lethal, but that's a misnomer. They're deadly. Directed energy weapons will kill you. They can slow kill you, and they can kill you just the way a taser can if focused in one part of your body for any length of time. A friend here in Kentucky and I wrote a bill to ban bioweapons and directed energy weapons here in Kentucky. And the bill was couched last year and then this year. Nobody wants to deal with it. Nobody wants to touch it. But it is affecting everybody. It's affecting the environment, animals, trees, the DNA of all life forms. And it degrades a person little at a time. It will cook you, just like a microwave, from the inside out. It will vibrate parts of your body. And if you were to take a thermometer and measure it, you would notice that the temperature of those body parts exceeds what would be naturally occurring. So there were some other things that these criminals did, and they appear to be focusing now on the chicken coop. So they completely scratched out the base of this tree stump. Here. I showed photos of this a couple of weeks ago. They've been scratching and scratching this out. And there's another thing that people will say, oh, well, no, it was this bug or that bug. It was this bug or that bug, or no, oh, that looks like it lasted years ago. That happened. No, it didn't happen years ago. It's happening now. It's called plausible deniability. Plausible deniability like this. That's new. That just happened. Plausible deniability it's psychologically abusive. It's a way of explaining away a set of circumstances to make it appear as if something occurred naturally, when the person that is explaining it away knows that they have done something wrong, and it's just a way of covering up what it is that was done wrong. So for instance, if I post these online, I'll invariably get one person. There are a couple of people like this. They'll start to explain it away as being naturally occurring and give it a name, or say it's a particular bug or whatever. And I'll say, no, this happened overnight. I know my property. I know what it looks like. I know what's naturally occurring and what isn't, because I live here and I care for it. So when somebody comes to me and says, oh no, that happened this way, like this, I'll say, no, that's not how it happens. It was done to it. It's intentional. So plausible deniability, I don't have the definition in front of me. I actually looked up the real definition and I cut and pasted it into an email for myself, because it is something that's very important that I want to discuss at a later date. And you can utilize this terminology not just for being a targeted person or being on a watch list, but it can apply to other things in your life. A lot of times in, interpersonal relationships, one partner or another will explain something away because they're guilty of something, or they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to talk about it like an adult. And then somebody will approach the situation and say, well, so-and-so acts this way because of X, Y, and Z, when that person is essentially covering up that they know that there is something wrong. They just don't want to acknowledge it or allow anybody else to know that the problem exists. And you can apply this then to every targeted person, every targeted individual, because plausible deniability is used on every targeted person. They'll say that we're unable to collect evidence. Well, that's not true. We collect evidence often, very often. But what happens with these criminals is, because they're surveilling us 24/7, they know when we have evidence, where we store it, and they will intentionally sabotage it. And I'll give you a for instance. I contacted a website. I think it was the Department of State. I'm not exactly sure. But it was recommended that they were looking into the Havana syndrome and how many other people may have been experiencing these negative health effects from radio waves or etc. So I completed the form. I didn't focus so much on that as I did the external proof: vandalism, thefts, property damage, pet harm. And then of course there are burn marks on my body that I don't smoke. I don't smoke cigarettes or anything else for that matter. I have not used my oven in my house. Actually, since I've moved here, I haven't used it. I do wear gloves a lot when I'm cutting the grass or mowing or using the DR trimmer. So I'm really sensitive about getting cuts or bruises to my hands, but they're there. I've got burn marks there. So I mentioned to this organization, I think it was the Department of State, they asked the question, do you have evidence? And I said yes. They asked how many times a day or how many times have you experienced these events? And I offered, these events happen every day. They're recorded on my cameras. I hear radio frequencies, loud bangs to the metal roof. Sometimes 10 times a day, 12 times a day, sometimes all day long. Sometimes it's sporadic. I didn't know where it was coming from, and then I realized what it was. So, and these were all recorded. And after I submitted that information, they said they were going to forward it to the FBI. I knew that that wasn't the best idea. Since the FBI hung up on me when I reported these crimes in New Jersey, my house being broken into so many times, and the Manalapan Police Department falsifying the reports and not including them in the police blotter, period. So I gave them the information, and lo and behold, every one of my downloaded videos with audio were still there, but all the audio was removed. I contacted the camera company, and they said, well, if you downloaded the videos, the audio should be there as well. And I said, the audio disappeared. So they are sending me to their technical support department, because that should not be.